let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolutely massive multi-billion-dollar boom we're seeing in the Turkish defense industry. But, and it's a big but, right beneath the surface of this incredible growth is a pretty serious hidden geopolitical trap. It's a classic double-edged sword, and we're going to break down exactly why. Here's our roadmap for today. 1. NATO summit and new expectations. 2. The great rise of the defense industry. 3. The hidden dangers of external dependency. 4. F-35 and the software dilemma. And 5. The future doctrine of war, UKVs. Starting things off with Section 1, NATO summit and new expectations. Let's look at the recent diplomatic maneuvering that really pushed this whole topic to the forefront. So, if you've been following the recent NATO summit, you've probably heard the wild rumors flying around about the U.S. supplying critical defense tech. We're talking Donald Trump's praise for Turkey, whispers about a potential return to the F-35 program, and even talks of supplying U.S. F-110 engines for Turkey's native Khan fighter jet. But, we really have to look past the diplomatic buzzwords here. What's said at a summit doesn't always magically appear on the tarmac, right? Moving on to Section 2, the great rise of the defense industry. To grasp what's really at stake, we need to understand the sheer scale of their native production today. And honestly, we are witnessing an unprecedented boom. Turkish defense exports haven't just grown, they've absolutely exploded to a massive $10 billion. Let that sink in for a second. This is a massive shift in the center of gravity for the global defense market. We're no longer just looking at a country buying weapons, we're looking at a major exporter actively reshaping regional power dynamics and building some serious economic leverage on the world stage.
What's fueling this? Well, this growth is sustained by a staggering 3,000 active defense firms operating inside the country. Think about that, 3,000. This isn't just a handful of isolated state-run factories. We're talking about an entire, deeply integrated ecosystem capable of rapid, localized manufacturing. It represents thousands of engineers, highly complex supply chains, and a huge domestic knowledge base driving continuous innovation.
And their native engineering is hitting entirely new heights. While standard U.S. F-110 engines give you substantial power, domestic Turkish projects like the MSB ARJ engine are aiming for a massive 42,000 pounds of thrust. That specific level of power, that's exactly what separates standard jets from elite next-generation fighters. If they can pull this off, it's a monumental leap for sovereign aviation. It really pushes the boundaries of what local engineering can achieve.
But here is the million-dollar question. How risky is external dependence? I mean, what actually happens to this rapidly booming sector if it still has to rely on foreign components to finish its most critical flagship projects?
That brings us to Section 3, the hidden dangers of external dependency. Let's see how this translates into a critical geopolitical vulnerability. There is a stark contrast when we look at supply lines. Foreign tech, like that U.S. F-110 engine, comes with some really heavy strings attached. You need U.S. Congress approval, and you risk triggering geopolitical responses, like CAATSA sanctions, if your foreign policy shifts. Native production, on the other hand, that offers complete sovereign control. It makes a nation fundamentally immune to foreign diplomatic blackmail and sudden supply chain embargoes. Let's do the math here, because the bottleneck is severe. Turkey needs at least 80 engines to equip 2 fully operational aircraft fleets. Yet right now, they only have 10 F-110s. So a 70-engine deficit. That is not just a logistical headache, it's a glaring strategic liability. Relying on an outside supplier who can literally throttle your capabilities at will, that's a massive risk for any rising power. Just consider the flashpoints where Turkey operates: the Eastern Mediterranean, the Aegean Sea, and Cyprus. If they assert their interest in any of these highly contested zones, foreign defense suppliers could immediately pull the plug. They could freeze the delivery of critical military hardware exactly when it's needed most, effectively holding national security hostage over a diplomatic disagreement.
Decades ago, former U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower famously warned about the grave danger of an uncontrolled military-industrial complex. Today, defense analysts point to that quote to highlight an even graver danger: relying on a foreign military-industrial complex. The economic growth and those massive export numbers are incredible, sure, but that growth absolutely cannot come at the cost of having your independent foreign policy dictated by external suppliers.
Which leads perfectly into Section 4, F-35 and the software dilemma. This is the ultimate example of technological dependency.
Even the closest U.S. allies, like the Netherlands and the U.K., have voiced some serious complaints about modern fighter platforms. Their frustration basically boils down to one terrifying reality, summed up by military officials. We cannot fly this without the software codes. Without those master codes, a multi-million-dollar next-gen jet can essentially be grounded by the manufacturer at any given time. It is a digital leash. The operational reality here is incredibly frustrating for allied nations. Take the UK. They initially wanted 130 jets, but they paused at 40 because of ongoing operational and cost issues. The Netherlands literally faced software lockouts, and in actual combat scenarios, these ultra-expensive jets are largely kept out of direct firing lines. They're forced to rely on long-range standoff missiles just to avoid risk. So, buying the hardware simply doesn't guarantee you sovereign control over how or even when you deploy the weapon.
And finally, Section 5. The Future Doctrine of War, UKVs. Given all these massive vulnerabilities and software locks, we really have to ask, is the era of the traditional multi-billion-dollar mega platform finally over?
Because the nature of warfare is changing incredibly fast right before our eyes. The rise of these ultra-fast, hypersonic and ballistic missiles, combined with the absolute dominance of unmanned combat aerial vehicles, or UCAVs, has completely shifted the battlefield. Traditional, heavily armored tanks and massive aircraft carriers, they're becoming extremely vulnerable targets. Asymmetric warfare, using swarms of cheaper drones and precise missiles, is literally paralyzing the old guard of heavy military tech.
To truly grasp the sheer scale of this global shift toward unmanned systems, just look at South Korea. They are reportedly initiating a massive program to train 500,000 UCAV pilots. Let me repeat that. 500,000. That is a staggering number. And it's a clear, undeniable signal that the unmanned skies are the undisputed future of military doctrine worldwide.
So for Turkey, bypassing these foreign hardware bottlenecks might mean pivoting entirely to native projects, like the 2029 KAAN'ın jet. But here is the real power multiplier. KAAN'ın is designed from the ground up to operate seamlessly alongside loyal wingman drone swarms. It's not just a standalone jet anymore. It's a fifth-generation, localized command center leading a decentralized, highly lethal, and fully native fleet into battle.
So we're going to leave you with this final thought. Are heavy imported fighter jets actually the true future of warfare? Does true national security lie in begging for foreign software codes and navigating external geopolitical locks? Or does it lie in mastering the unmanned, asymmetric skies of tomorrow with your own sovereign drone swarms? Let that sink in. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.